Record. Hello everyone. Now we continue from where we left off. So, the curious. Yep. Okay, return the count of European countries. Get count of European countries. It's a simple one where you create, so you have countries, like you have objects that fulfill a specific condition. So in, for example, students, program, right? We could do program, count of programs, no, count of students that are in computer science. So let's do that. Let's see if it's in the given one. No. Okay. So public long get count of the computer science students. And it's simple. We have to get how many students are in computer science. So first things first, we create a list type student and just get all of the students in here. And then we initialize the count to long CS students is equal to 0. Is there any point in time we will use array list? Yes, good question. We will use array list when we have to sort the list. See here, list country, get countries order by population. Now we actually need to change the list. So we do list country is equal to new array list because we are actually having to change it. And then we just sort it and we return it. So that's when we will be using the array list or other mutable list. Fun. Don't worry, array lists are easy. I love array lists so much. They're the best data type ever. So easy to work with. You'll see. When you deal with shitty data types for so long, you will enjoy the times you get to use the array lists. Okay, so 0 CS students so far. Now, because we're going through all the students, we just use a for each loop. For student, student, in students. And now for each student, we just have to check if that student is a CS student. So student dot get program. So notice here get program returns program. It returns type program. So there's an important note here that is very important when it comes to dealing with enums. You can use the operands equal and this not equal in case of enum. It's because the enum types have the specific values in memory. If you want to get into details, it's because they're both stored in the same area of memory. It's like a primitive type where they have absolute values. But basically, you can use equal equal instead of having to use dot equals. So student.getProgram, if the program of that student is equal to, we go student, we have to access the enum first, right? So student dot, what's the name of that enum? Program dot computer science. So if that student's program is equal to computer science, we increase the count by going CS students plus plus. Okay, so that's it for the loop. And in the end, we just return the CS students. Simple counting function. Okay, next one returns the count of countries that are located in the given continent. Um, it's literally the same, Just see if the region is equal to region for each country. And this might look confusing to you, but it just means it's non-null. It's not null, the parameter. Well, I guess in this case, they give you a region. It's like get count of uh, program students. So we need to get, I'll just modify this one. So now it's get count of program students, which means calculate how many students are in this program. And as a parameter, we get student dot non-null program, this. On line 103, why not get all? 103, 103. So, Alan, what we do here is to make it simpler, we use here get all. We get all the students and we store it in a list, students here at the start, and we just refer to it. If you go to the first ever query, it says here, you can decide whether you declare a new reference for the list or invoke the getAll method multiple times. Note that the method always returns a brand new unmodifiable list. So it's just simpler to create a list at the start of every query and get all and store it in there. But then we go back. Okay, so so this syntax, do you understand? It says student dot because we're basically referring to this student dot program because program is an enum that is nested inside student and the name of the parameter will be program. Since it is guaranteed to be non-null, by the way, this is already given by the professor, the signature, you won't have to write it. I'm just explaining it so you understand. Since it's guaranteed to be non-null, we just put non-null here. That's it. Now, to get how many students are in that specific program, we first initialize the list of students. Here, get all the students. Long, how many students are in that program? We initialize it to 0. Then we start with the students. Every single student, we go through it. If student.getProgram is equal to, now here we just put the parameter program. Then we increase the number of students in the required program. That's it. Any questions about this one? 5, 4. What's even the output of this? This will be a long number. We can just test it right now. We go to main. This one out. My repository dot. It's gonna show all students who have a program. No, the input to this method, the parameter, is a program. It's a parameter of type student.program. If you go into student and you look at the program nested class, you notice that it can have 4 possible values. One of these are given as the parameter, and we check how many students have that. Just to confirm, I'll just show you the output. You input which course you want in the main. Yeah, when accessing it. So we do my repository dot, what's the name of the method? Get count of program students. Get count of program students. And here do program dot computer science, I guess. This will print how many students are in computer science. 2. You do instead of computer science engineering. 2. Just to make sure it's not repeating, we just go and business informatics. If this is also 2, then there might be something wrong. No, this is 3. So, it works. Okay, so returns the population of the given continent. So this is similar, I guess. Yeah, it's similar. Instead of get program is equal to this, we just do get continent is equal to continent, whatever is given. We just add to the sum. I guess the last thing I will do, I will solve the Lego set as well real quick. So you guys get what I mean with these queries. But yeah, for now I'm just explaining these. So if you have any questions, like long sum, Yeah. Returns whether a country exists having this. Won't there be a comparator and comparable queries? Yes, there will. Comparator will be in the sorting country queries. We're right now in the basic queries. Don't worry though, this is the longest page. And out of this, we have like 4 queries left. This is the longest. The sorting queries are is a pretty short page with only 3 queries. And the collection country queries is also a pretty short page with only 9 queries. But this is literally just patterns. I've never done these queries before. Last year, what happened was until the last day, I thought the feedback, I thought the lab exam was just a feedback test. So I didn't prepare. So when I went to the exam and I asked the professor, so what's the bonus of the feedback test? And he said, brother, this is the lab exam. And I'm like, ah. Anyway, return the country which has the given code. So here, okay, this is interesting. So I'm gonna do it. We're going to return the student which has a given Neptune. So first we'll go through the students. Let's just say this one, LKM890. So we want to return the student which has the given code. So we go my repository. I'll just type it here. So public student, because it returns a student, get student by Neptune, and you get a non-null student. No, non-null in Neptune. Okay, first things first, you get the list of students. List students is equal to get all. Okay. Second, well, you just start iterating for student, student in students. Check if, so Neptune is a string, right? So you do if this student dot get Neptune dot equals the given Neptune. If it does, you just return the student. That's it. If you go through all of this and you don't get any student with that Neptune, oh yeah, sorry, this student. If you go through all of this and you don't end up getting a student with that Neptune, in that case, return null. And now you can compare it with this. Get all, except here, like Ellen said before, you can just call get all here. I just prefer doing this because it's more professional and in a real life code, you would be doing this. So yeah, any questions, feel free to well, not send, post in the chat. But yeah, I'll move on. Return the country which has the given code. Again, it's literally the same, except in this case, the signature has optional. So this is interesting because this is a value that can be missing, right? If it's missing, it returns null. So he might tell you to return an optional instead, in which case you cannot return a null. It will, he'll fail you. So in the last video, probably the last video or the last video, I think it's the last video. Yeah, the video before this, I covered what optional is. Optional can is a box which can and cannot have a value. You could say the value is optional. So the return type is just optional. It will be given in the signature, and it will obviously get optional student by Neptune. So to start off, you will make it optional. So optional student, uh, nice student. It's the student to return. And I guess at the start, you can just give it an empty value. Or what they have done is they just return an empty value if it wasn't found. But again, I prefer to have a value already ready. So my student is the value that will be returned. And first we assign it an empty. Okay, optional dot empty just means empty box. Now we go through each student in the list of students. If that student uh, meets the condition, then my student is equal to optional. What we use to put a value inside optional. Optional dot off. Optional dot off, and this student. And at the end, we just return my student. So if none of the students match the value, it would just return an empty optional. Return the country which has the greatest population of its continent. So for this, we will be given a continent. Hmm, Let me see. Get maximum year. So let's deal with this one, and let's make it interesting. Instead of get maximum year, let's do it minimum year and by major instead of continent. So get minimum year by for uh, program like computer science and stuff. So and the parameter will just be student dot. By the way, you don't need to understand what I'm doing there. Okay, so we will be given a program and we will have to find the minimum year by that program. It's the same as and the return will be okay, we will have to return the student which has the smallest year by program. So optional student. So it's similar to this query where we have to return the country which has the greatest population of its continent. So we will be given a region. I think in that case, they're using region and continent interchangeably. Yeah, I think so. Can somebody confirm that? Region and continent in this case are the same thing, right? No clue. Okay, we'll assume region and continent is the same thing. Okay, just scroll up. What's up to see if they are the same. There's no source code for the country repository. That's a problem. They just give the queries. This isn't like a sample test file where they give the representation and everything. They just give the queries. Okay, we'll assume region and continent are the same here. So optional country. So what's the logic here? First, optional country selected, we give it an empty. So there's no country selected right now. And then country in all the countries. What we will do is we will create a list and we will save all of the countries in that list first. Now, for each country, you check if the country's region is equal to the selected is the given region. And now this is interesting. It might confuse a lot of people. If the current selected is empty, or like if the current region is empty, then always the current, like the country we're checking right now will be selected. Or if the country we are iterating over right now, the population of this country is more than the population of this country, then this country becomes selected. I know it sounds confusing, so let's just start. So first we put all the students in a list, like always. Yeah, Anand, we'll see. Let's talk later about that. Uh, Selected first, we create the optional selected student and we just make it an empty optional. Then the condition is the smallest here by the program. So we are given a program. So we first iterate through every single student in the student list and we check if, okay, so the first thing we need to check if the selected student, and well, now if the current student we are checking uh, is his get program is equal to the given program. Okay, that's the first condition. By the way, I prefer using brackets in this case to make it easier to understand. So this is the first condition. And what is the other condition? Now you need to know a bit of logic, like how to think in terms of logic. But or if any one of the ors are true, then this side will be true. And if this side is true and this side is true, the answer will be true. So if the student is in the correct program and the current selected is empty, or if the current selected dot get, if you want to get the inner value of an optional, dot get dot, um, it's a program, right? So get the current selected student dot dot get program. Well, no, sorry. Hmm. So the optional at the start will be empty. So this will get triggered. And after that, when a program is eventually stored in there, yeah, I know, when a program is eventually stored in there, when a student is eventually stored in there, it will always have the correct program. So we don't need to check for it. We just do student dot dot get here. So if the selected student's year is bigger than the selected, well, than the current student, in which case, like if the selected student's year is bigger than the current student, we just we give the new, like this student, the status of selected because this student's year is smaller than this student's year. So student is equal, selected is equal to student. Well, no. Selected is equal to optional dot off, and we feed this student into the optional. There we go. So far, is it clear? Because I know it might be confusing. Even I got confused a few times. So let me know if anything's confusing and I'll clarify it. So if there is, if there was no student that, hmm, yeah, in the end, it will just be optional dot empty. If none of the students are in computer science, it will just give empty. But there should be some students in computer science. So in the end, just return selected and we're done. You can see here. Then the last one is returns the first country which name starts with the given letter. Okay, this is super easy. This car at will do it with students. Let's see. Students. J J E. Okay, let's see. Let's return the first student whose name starts with E. I'll just copy the signature. So optional student, get first, get first student by starting letter, character letter. So one thing to notice here is the character, they're using the character type, not string. So first thing we do is put all the students in a list, student, students is equal to get all, and now we start iterating through the students. So for student, student in students, student in students. Isn't this outputting all students that start with a certain letter? Uh, I haven't I haven't solved yet. So just wait for me to solve. So we do yeah, just wait. List student, right? This is all the students in the list. Then we start for each student in the list. Now, for each student, we check that student's name. So if that student dot get name dot, and you know this thing called car at, it's you can run it on a string. It says the character at which index. So character at 0 index, which is the first character ever. Yes, like Ricardo said. Okay, is equal to, if the first character in that student's name is equal to the character we are given, then we just return. Okay, we should, since it's optional, we should just do optional student selected is equal to, make an empty optional. So if the first student that matches that description, we just go return selected is equal to optional dot o that student, and then we just return selected. I guess if no student matches the description, we just return selected here, in which case it will return empty. I could have just said that, but it makes more sense to solve it first. Alan, if you want to know what optionals are, go to, let me see which video I explained optionals in. Optional is basically a box that can or cannot have a value. I explained it in video 4, the video before this, because this is video 5. Okay, I said, what about the last letter? I really doubt the last letter is going to come, but if you really want to know the last letter, hmm, it's gonna be, let me see if JavaScript has ends with. Ooh, it does. It has ends with. Okay, so string dot get name dot ends with, and you just give it that letter. But the problem is, okay, string dot value of letter. There you go. So we get that student's name and dot ends with. Is it clear? No, ends with. It's very simple. Actually, I remember it because I was developing this Discord bot, and you have to check if it ends with. It's a JavaScript file. This is what it's normally used for, by the way. You check dot ends with dot .js or dot .java to see if it's a file of that extension. Anyway, start at zero. So we are done with the basic queries. And the next one, I think in the next video, we should be able to finish these two straight up because they're small. And you guys already know the basics. In the time being, actually now, Ellen, you can't go and watch the recordings right now because I haven't uploaded them. But let me just do this next video as well, and then I'll just upload them all. I think we should do like two more videos. The next video, I'll explain all these queries, the remaining queries, and the next video, I'll solve the Lego set example or some other example from start till end, including its queries. But anyway, I'll end this video then if there's no question. Are there any? When we submit? What do you mean when you submit? No, calling the queries in main is optional. That's just for testing purposes. Why are you typing in fragments, word by word? It's like in a horror movie when somebody's trying to. Prakash is saying I should kick you. Bro, Prakash, why are you sending me direct messages? I closed the Zoom without listening to your question. Oh, good point. Oh, well, I hope your question is finished. I hope your question is answered. Calling the queries in main is optional. It's for testing purposes. Well, then see you guys in the next one.